We're SlikRok Productions, and we get, I kid you not, probably 1,000 questions a month on different questions on parts, products, just installation things, and we want to do our best to answer as many as we can.
Right.
So,
and we do a lot of, we get PM'd a lot, so we get a lot of people asking us questions, but we're going to try to take like the top 20 every month,
right,
and try to break these down and answer them publicly. Bear in mind, there is no dumb questions when
Not
it
at
comes
all.
to UTVs. People who bash other people for questions they think are silly online really irritate me because they ask those silly questions at 1.2.
Right.
We all evolve, we all start somewhere. There's no dumb questions with SlikRok.
Yeah.
From the easiest answers to the most complicated ones, we all need answers.
Yeah,
we all
trust
share
us,
information.
We
you know?
do not care. We've answered the same questions hundreds of times. We don't care. We're here to help. So all of our platforms, if you have something that you need answered, ask us.
Reach out, we'll help you. We're happy to.
So one of the top ones we've been getting is centered around limit straps. Do I need limit straps? How do I know I need limit straps? How do you put on limit straps? Just that's kind of been the centralized questions around them. So let's dive
Let's
into
break
it a
that
little
down.
bit.
Let's go a little simple. There's two reasons you need limit straps. The one reason is it doesn't apply to 99% of us out there is for racers. Racers will squat their cars down. They want to limit the amount of travel, so they limit the amount of body roll. It's a very aggressive sway bar, so to speak. But if you do that, you're also limiting where you articulate.
Right.
Your car is going to ride a lot rougher. It is a lot more controllable at high speeds. That's why racers do it. But it really depends on what kind of racing you're doing. For the rest of us out there, we want to control our articulation. We want to control our droop. So independent front suspension, we don't run sway bars in the car. A lot of you guys probably pull them as well. If you're rock crawlers, you're definitely pull them. If you're mountain riders, the thing is about IFS is the acronym is independent suspension. And so when you have independent suspension, the suspension should move independently. If you have a sway bar, it's not independent anymore.
Right.
And so what a sway bar does is it links both sides together. So if you go into a body roll situation, like you're turning a sharp corner, as your car starts to go into a dive, it pulls on the other side to start leveling it back out. So that's a safer way to go at high speeds, but it also takes away your ride quality. And so, you know, we don't run sway bars on most of our cars. Most people run just a rear on there. If you have a front sway bar, take it off, throw it in the garbage can. You don't need to, I promise you, you don't. But for the most part, when we're at full droop, especially when you're running portals and you're running, you know, long travel, it's like what you run into is you'll bottom the shock out and you can do damage inside of there if it goes too far, or it'll pull your axle apart or pull it out.
Right.
And so your suspension will only travel so far. And so what we like to do is we like to find full droop, and then we'll back that off an inch and measure our mounting points, and that's usually where we run. Because we don't want to limit any articulation we have. We just want to stop it before it pulls an axle out or does damage to a shock.
Especially with the amount of mass, like you mentioned, that we have on the corners of our machines.
Right.
I mean, we're running 35, 37, 40-inch tires, plus the weight of the portal.
Right.
It's a lot to bottom out that shock.
And there's a ton of companies out there that we have on Madhouse Motorsports that have done the math for you. If you want to run limit straps in a car, they're specifically set up. They go from shock hole to shock hole, and so it's basically just taking 1 inch out of your travel just to keep it safe so it doesn't come back out.
Right.
A lot of our cars we do custom stuff on. We'll weld our own tabs. We use our own straps. You can mount them in any way you want, and you can literally decide if you want to take 2 inches out, 3 inches. We got my Kawasaki's on long travel, plus portals, plus spacers, plus 5.2 wheels. That car is basically square. It's super long.
Right.
And so I had to take 2 inches of full droop out of that car because it would rub on the axles, and you know what I mean? So, but the whole point of the limit strap is to not damage anything at full droop.
Right.
So if you're having a situation where you're articulating and it pulls an axle out, or you can hear that thump in your shock that's clunking, that'll do damage, both of those over time. So we just want to minimize that by reducing it a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. And then let's back up a little bit. Why do we customize the locations of where we weld mounts to, as opposed to just doing the shock eyelet?
So for me, it's kind of two reasons. You might have a different answer for this, but number one, I don't like my straps rubbing on coils.
Right.
I don't like contact in between there. I want them out of the way. Most of them that go from eyelet to eyelet, they put a spacer in between them. On the back of a turbo car or back of any razor, it's kind of tough because if you're on the back side of that, your strap's going to melt on the exhaust. You need to make sure you put them on the outside when you do that. But but I don't like them in way of that. And plus, when you're taking on and off your shocks, it's kind of a pain in the butt to take more stuff off. It's kind of tight real estate up in there. And so the angle at which it comes down and where it stops, you can run a lot shorter strap if you're welding a tab onto the frame, which is typically what we do.
Right.
Or you know, like on the Kawasaki, we use the sway bar mount because we don't use sway bars,
which worked out
and
perfectly.
made our own off of that. But at that point, you can really customize yourself. If your suspension is set up a little bit different, or you have a long travel kit or something outside of the norm, and you buy a kit for your car, specifically for your car, everybody makes those kits for an OEM replacement. Yeah. And so if you're running long travel or portals or something else, that might not specifically work for you, you know?
Correct.
So there's quite a few questions that are really hard to answer in there. But I mean, if you have those, certainly message us, or we'll help you in any way we can. But for us, I think that the custom mounting location is, you know, one, because we want to get them out of the way. And for two, we can run any length strap we want. We have a lot more versatility in where we put them.
Yeah. And like Kurt mentioned, the best way to do that is let your machine fully droop out and then measure it and back it off an inch.
Yeah. Jack your machine up, let it droop out all the way, put it back down, let it squat an inch, pull a measurement from bolt hole to bolt hole, or from mounting location to mounting location if you're going to change it. That's the length of strap you need. A lot of people will tell you that a strap will stretch a half inch. I don't know if that's necessarily true unless they're wet. You know what I mean? They're really thick. They're really hardy. You know what I mean? But you can buy yourself a half or a quarter inch if you want to, if it makes you feel better. You know what I mean? A half inch isn't going to make the biggest difference in the world. You know? It's like, don't let that part of the equation freak you out a little bit. We get that question a whole bunch. You know what I mean?
And the next question is, do I need to run limit straps on the front and rear?
It really depends. Most of our cars, we only have them on the front. If you're not bottoming a shock out and you are not pulling axles back out, you don't even need them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it's like some of our cars, the fronts, we seem to run a lot more because we droop heavier on the fronts.
Right.
The backs, it really depends on your setup. But if you're hearing shocks clunk when your suspension is drooping out, no matter what, run limit straps. It's a lot better. It's a lot cheaper investment to protect the shock and the internals from that, because your option is you break something in there, it's full rebuild. It's expensive. You know?
Yep.
So it's a good rule of thumb. They're easy to install. I mean, it's like I said, just take an inch out at full droop, put them at that location, and you'll be great.
Perfect. So if you guys have any other questions, please reach out to us. If not, if you're looking for limit straps, hit up madhousemotorsports.com.
We got 3-4 different brands of them on there, and we like all of them. Sandcraft makes great ones. MTS, Super ATV makes great ones. PRP makes great straps. Whatever you need, we got it at madhousemotorsports.com.